much, Carol Drinkwater. Absolutely marvelous to meet you and to have you on my show. Very honored to speak with you today. And I'm a huge fan of your work, and you've done so much from acting, writing, and I have the wonderful Olive farm. I was going to say Olive Ranch, but you have done a lot, and you're still doing a lot. I was going to ask you, what is like your kind of favorite thing that you do?
Well, I don't have a favorite thing. I love acting and I love writing. And I think the fact that I can do both of them, because one is very isolated and the other is very gregarious. And I love the fact that I can mix both of those. And last year, for example, when I was doing Carol Drinkwater's Secret Provence for Channel 5, it was an opportunity. It wasn't acting in the sense of, it was Carol as a character, really. So it was very nice to be able to get back out there and once I was back in front of the camera, I said to myself, I really love doing this. I'd forgotten how much I love doing it.
It's wonderful, that show. I really enjoyed it. But you have been in some incredible productions, from A Clockwork Orange, the iconic Stanley Kubrick film, to the amazing series All Creatures Great and Small, and a lifetime of great work. How was it like being in that Stanley Kubrick film?
Well, look, it was my first job out of drama school. The day after I left drama school, I was working in my father's theatrical agency to earn a bit of money till I got a job. And the phone rang, and it was Stanley Kubrick's assistant saying, "Hi, is that Carol? Would you like to come and screen test for Stanley?" And I thought it was one of the other girls at drama school sending me up. You simply don't expect that. But I went along for the screen test, and I had to do a scene, a Marilyn Monroe scene from Some Like It Hot, and it just seemed too unreal, to have just walked out of drama school. And so I just laughed my way through the screen test because I just didn't think it was possible. Anyway, I got the job, and it was only 4 lines, and then because they got so far behind on schedule, they cut one scene. So even before I got there, it was only 2 lines. So it's hardly. So I worked with Stanley, and I spent some time with him and heard what everybody thought about him. I mean, it's the only time I've ever worked on a show where everybody said that he could do their job better than they did. And you don't often hear technicians say that. Not one single person seemed to have a bad word to say about him. So it was an honor, and I kind of thought that that's how it would always be, that everybody would be as visionary and as exigeant as he was. But of course, that's not the case. But it was a wonderful start. I just thought it was onwards and upwards from there. Which was
incredible. And then being in All Creatures Great and Small, I mean, that was just such a beautiful program. Did you enjoy it?
It was. We were very fortunate because the team really gelled, and I'm not just talking about the 4 of us principals. There was also Mary Hignett, who played Mrs. Hall, and there was the crew and all the cast that came in, either regulars or those who just came in as a guest appearance. And we were very fortunate. It was incredibly well cast, I think. Not just principals, but I mean all those smaller roles, the character actors, were incredibly well cast. They were all very professional. People worked a lot in the clubs and everything. And I just think, and we got on incredibly well. I mean, it's a time that I can honestly say that I look back on, and I woke every morning looking forward to going to work.
Yeah.
And it's not always you can say that. I can tell you it's not always you can say that. There have been jobs when I've woken up in the morning with one eye and thought, oh, do I really want to get out of bed? Do I really want to face that person again? Or whatever it happens to be. But that certainly wasn't the case with All Creatures. We loved each other. We laughed such a lot. We played jokes on each other. I mean, I can think of all kinds of silly jokes that, and it's just wonderful to look back on a job and think that, and of course, once it became so successful, and we knew that we were creating something that everybody loved, that also gave an added buoyancy to it because, we felt validated in what we were doing, and it made the whole thing even more optimistic and more upbeat.
Yeah,
You know how when you're riding on a wave, you feel kind of,
euphoric. Yeah.
absolutely, you feel that you can't. And so it was, I mean, if I had my time over again, I probably wouldn't have left it, but I felt a need to get on and do other things and start writing, etc. So
yeah,
I felt that I needed that time to do other things. But in fact, looking back, I probably could have done that and done the other things. But there we are,
Yeah, it's hard to know. But you have incredible life. You have incredible life now. And you've traveled so much, Carol, as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And you live in this beautiful part of the world in Provence, in France.
Well, actually, we're in Provence in the grander sense of the word, the larger sense of the word. We're in the Alpes-Maritimes part, and we're overlooking the Bay of Cannes. So it's the Côte d'Azur, the French Riviera. Beautiful. I can see the Mediterranean from outside the window, So
it's lovely. I love it there. I used to live in Juan-les-Pins.
Oh, we're very close.
Oh, really?
I can almost wave. Hi.
Hello again. Thank you.
What happened?
Carol. Yeah, dropped out a bit of the connection there. But thank you. You were just saying how close you are to the Mediterranean. You can see Juan-les-Pins.
I could almost, if you were there now, I could almost wave at you. And I was just asking, there's a painting right by your head there. Is that the Mediterranean?
It is actually, yes. I did that a couple of years ago. It's
you painted it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
Oh, thank you so much. But I wanted to ask how you ended up in that beautiful part of the world there of France.
Well, I've been looking all over the world for what I described as my house by the sea, which I wrote about in the first of my olive farm books, which is a quartet of books set on the olive farm and 2 books traveling all the way around the Mediterranean. And the first one, called The Olive Farm, is about my falling in love with a French producer in Australia. I've been looking all over for what I call my house by the sea. And Michelle, who was the producer of a miniseries I've been making out there, took me out for dinner and asked me to marry him on our very first date. We'd only met the night before, which I kind of didn't take seriously. But we started seeing each other then when I was back. I was living in London at the time. And then he invited me down to Cannes for the film festival. And while we were down here, I started looking for a house by the sea down here, not specifically for the 2 of us, but because at that time I hadn't said yes. But after he'd finished working, we came inland because I couldn't afford anything that was down at the sea. They said, "Not for that money, madam." And we came inland to look for kind of ruins and things like that. And an estate agent brought us to this place, which was very much a ruin and a jungle of land. And once we cut the land back, we found that we had 68 almost 400-year-old olive trees and a vineyard which was dead and gone, and we've never really replaced, though we are thinking about doing it again.
Yeah.
And then we planted up more olive trees, so now we have over 300 olive trees. And, we just fell in love with it and the view and everything. And it became our kind of folly, it was kind of madness to take it on.
It looks beautiful. Yeah, from the program, it looks an incredible place.
Yes, they photographed it looking, they didn't, I was a bit sad that they didn't show all the cracks and, that side of it as well, because, it is all the flowers and everything are lovely, but the house needs repainting and, all of that kind of thing. So, but that's fine. We do a bit when we can, and that's it,
Yeah, but it sounds an amazing story, how you met Michelle. You were staying in a hotel in Australia. Can you tell us a bit more about that, Carol?
I was staying at a hotel called the Seagull Townhouse in Sydney in Elizabeth Bay, which is a very chic and lovely part of Sydney. And this hotel was known as the Hotel for the Stars. I'd been filming a miniseries which Michelle was the executive producer of in Melbourne, but we'd never met because we were meant to meet before the filming started, but he had to cancel. And so after I'd finished all my filming, I went up to the Barrier Reef to do some diving, and then I went to Sydney to meet up with agents and do a bit of publicity for the series and everything with the ABC. And because this hotel was famous for having the entertainment people, they always had signs outside saying the Siebel Townhouse welcomes Tina Turner, the Siebel Townhouse welcomes Elton John, and they also had the Siebel Townhouse welcomes Carol Drinkwater.
Oh, brilliant.
The only time I've been billed with Elton John and Tina Turner.
Wow.
And Michel saw it. He also was staying at that hotel because it was where people in the industry stayed. And he saw my name outside and he said to reception, "Is she here at the moment?" And they said, "Yes, she checked back in again yesterday," or whatever. And he said, "Could you ring her room?" And he said, "Look, this is Michelle. I'm the exec producer. Do you want to come down to the bar and have a drink with me?" So I went to have a drink with him, and then he said, "Do you want to have dinner tomorrow evening?" And I actually wasn't going to be free the following evening. I was meant to be having dinner with Googie Withers and her husband David. So I had to say no, which was a bit of a blow because I thought he was rather attractive.
Yeah.
My hotel, the bedside phone flashing red as they used to, saying from Googie, "Sorry, darling, I have to cancel dinner tomorrow." So I rushed back down to reception and left him a note, and we went and had dinner, and he asked me to marry him.
Wow, on the first date?
On our first date, yeah. We hadn't even got to the first course. It was immediate, almost immediate. He says now that from the moment he walked into the bar the night before, he says that he fell in love with me instantly. It wasn't quite so instant for me. I think it took us 2 dates before I fell in love with him.
But it was a kind of love at first sight.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. And you've been together a long time?
It's our wedding anniversary on the 10th of April, and I think we've been married since 1988, and we met in October 1984. So, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Nearly 38. Oh, my God, nearly 38 years. We did split up for a while, and then we got back together again. So,
No way. That's incredible. Yeah. You don't hear of that happening often, but you must really love each other a lot to kind of maintain it.
Yeah, and I think we've also, because we split up for a while, I think we both realised what the relationship meant to both of us. And I was kind of determined because, the film industry is kind of fickle. And I really wanted to make this relationship work. It was important to me to, and which is another reason why I started to concentrate more on the writing rather than the acting, because I could be here. And whereas in the beginning of our relationship, I was going off for like 3 months at a time, 4 months at a time, and to Australia and places like that. So it wasn't like we could pop home at the weekend and see each other. So I then determined that if we wanted to do anything with this place and also with our relationship, then it was a great time for me to start to concentrate on the writing, which I'd wanted to do anyway. Yeah. So the whole thing kind of gelled, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to take the bull by the horns to stop dreaming and see if I really can make a go of the writing. And it's amazing. Yeah. And you write so much. You have written so much. And is your husband very supportive of the writing? Because it is something that takes a lot of time on your own, isn't it? He used to read everything first before anybody else. I mean, in fact, he still does, but I don't so much now feel the need that he's got to see it first. I was always terrified to give it to anybody before he'd read it, but now I have a very good relationship with my literary agent, Jonathan Lloyd at Curtis Brown, who I think is, he's one of a kind. He's a kind of giant in the industry. So I trust Jonathan. I mean, it might take him longer to read than it would Michelle because he's got other clients and stuff. Michelle's only got one wife, I hope. Yeah. So, but I feel that I have a support team around me now, which is very important, and that I can trust what they say. So that counts for a lot. So I'm less reliant on Michelle in that sense. I mean, obviously, if I'm unsure about something, then it's to him I go first. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And how did you go about doing your first book, Carol? I just sat down and wrote it. I was filming a Christmas special of All Creatures Great and Small, and I just took the book up to Yorkshire with me. I'd met Michelle, by then, and I said to him, "Look, I'm going to see if I can have a go at it." And in fact, he, with the ABC in Australia, produced that as a children's miniseries. I starred in it.
Yeah.
Of course. I kind of wrote it for myself as well. And then it was bought by Disney in the States, and they put it they recut it to make it film length as well, and put it into the Chicago Film Festival for children's films, and it won the Gold Award. So it kind of
that was the first one.
The book sold. In England, I think it sold something like 140,000 copies, which doesn't sound like a lot now, but this is pre-J.K. Rowling, remember? So the children's market was very much second rate, both in television and the literary area. People kind of thought, oh, it's children's, it's not of the same level or importance, which of course we all know is nonsense, absolute nonsense. But so you wouldn't expect a child.
Yeah. And Carol, when you started writing, were you doing it kind of, just some of the days, or was it like every day you're going to do so many words, or you finish the set?
It's hard for me to remember now. As I was writing The Haunted School, that was the book, the first one, while I was filming All Creatures in Yorkshire, I suppose I did it on my days off. I can't really remember. I do remember that I, for the first time, rented myself a little cottage that was away from all the rest of the cast, to be a little bit separate. And I remember very clearly, working on very old, I think I was working on a typewriter.
Oh, wow.
I was working on a typewriter. So I took my typewriter on location and, up on location to the bungalow where I was staying, and worked away. I beavered away when I wasn't filming. Yeah. So I must have done every day off I had, something like that back then. Yeah. I obviously didn't have the thing of getting up and starting and doing a certain amount of words every day. I just wanted to get my first story written. Yeah. So I just went at it and did it, Yeah.
Excellent. And now, how would you kind of describe your life? Like, how much of the time are you writing, and how much of the time are you looking after the house or traveling? Is it, or it depends if you have a book kind of due, or?
It differs according to what's going on in my life. I mean, for example, I was meant to be starting the second series of Secret Provence in 3 weeks' time. And I've been doing an awful lot of research for that over the winter. We're actually not now going to do it because I haven't been well, and I just said, I can't.
Too much.
I can't match what was needed. So in fact, we cancelled it, and I feel quite sad about it now because I probably would have been up to it. But anyway, so my winter was very much concentrating on getting lots of stories and lots of places down here, unusual places that I could take the camera and the team and everything. So I've been doing a lot of that. I mean, I'll use that material. It'll get used for either to go into books or it'll go into magazines or something. None of it's wasted. So that's what I've been doing with my winter. Now that I'm not going to be filming over the summer, I'm starting the book that I should have started last autumn, and that Jonathan's been saying. He sends me emails that says book. That's all it says. J, kiss, book in big letters. So I think it's time for me to take the hint and recognise that he's waiting for material. So that's now what I'm going to concentrate on for a bit.
Yeah, well, you're fantastically productive and so busy, and it seems that you do so much. What's your tip for people who would like to be writing or would like to write a book? What would you say to somebody starting off like that?
No one else is going to write it for you. No one else is going to sit down in that seat every single day and write it for you. The words are not going to write themselves. You have to sit down. You have to turn up. You have to turn up at your desk. And I could say that to myself right now, too. I mean, I'm not, I need to, each day now that I need to be getting on with, I say to myself, time to get back to the desk. I mean, there's no point in procrastinating. You have to sit down. And unless you sit down and start to face it, it isn't going to happen. No one else is going to do it.
Yeah, you got to turn up. That's very good advice. And Carol, you've traveled to so many different places. As you say, you worked in Australia, and you live in a beautiful part of France. Where would you say is your favorite places on earth?
Well, obviously, I love here for obvious reasons. My roots are Irish. I love Ireland, and should all this fall apart for some reason that I can't, please God, think of now, it would be, and if I had to leave France, for some reason, I would return to Ireland. I mean, that's pretty definite. I find myself placed by the sea down there somewhere.
Yeah.
I miss Ireland a lot, and over all this COVID period and until now, I haven't been back for almost 3 years, and I've got family having weddings and things this year, so I'm hoping to get back for some of those occasions.
Yeah.
People. So I do miss Ireland greatly. I love the wild Atlantic way, though I'm from the Midlands, right in the middle of the country, so not by the sea.
Right. Yeah.
But farmland, my family were farmers, so I miss all that, the hands-on, all that stuff. And it skipped my mother. She went to London, and that's how she met my father and everything. But she was astounded when I said, I get my wellies out and get into the garden. She said, "You're right back. A generation, what I ran away from, you've gone right back to." So it's very much in my roots and in my blood.
Yeah.
So I love all that. But I mean, I love the Mediterranean. I think of myself as Irish Mediterranean. That's how I like to label myself.
Yeah.
Irish Mediterranean, because I absolutely love the Mediterranean. I love the southern Mediterranean. I love the east and the west, and the two basins, the different. I love the islands. Sicily is one of my favorite places on earth.
Oh, beautiful.
I love Cyprus. They're all, each place around the Mediterranean has. I love Algeria, for example. Which is a place where most people wouldn't go. The people are warm and they're very friendly, and it helps to speak French, obviously, because I don't speak Arabic or Berber. So it's good that I can speak French. But once you get there, the people are so warm and friendly, and it's very beautiful, and they're amazing Roman ruins. And there's like two other people there. The Roman ruins are stupendous, and there's not a soul there.
Wow.
There. So I love tracing the kind of Roman footprints across the North African part of the Mediterranean. That's an amazing thing to do. I like Morocco for different reasons. Marrakesh.
Yeah.
Because,
have you been to Marrakesh much?
Yeah. Not much. I've been a couple of times, I think.
Oh wow! Yeah. Yeah,
I love that. It's so buzzy, and it's so well. It's very cosmopolitan as well, and I love all that, and the people again, and I love all the kind of shopping, and not that I do a lot of it. Go to all that, going to the souks. I love all that. Yeah. I'm a great fan of Beirut.
Right. Yes, beautiful city.
Really beautiful. I loved Aleppo. I thought I had some of the best food I've ever eaten in Aleppo, and I found it a very beautiful, welcoming city. I mean, I dread to think what's left of it now. I suppose it's like Mariupol.
Yeah.
But that was a great city. I mean, Palermo was.
Yes.
Do I mean Palermo, or do I mean Palmyra? Palmyra, in the desert in Syria. That's an astounding place. I spent a week there.
Wow.
I've been all over, I've slept inside volcanoes. I've been up the Amazon on my own, and
Wow, that is inspiration. And how about nearer to you, nearer to your home? Do you go swimming near there in the sea?
Well, we have a big pool, so mostly I just swim here because it's far less time consuming. But there are little beaches that we go down to sometimes. I mean, sometimes we go to the beach for lunch. And if it's, I might have a swim when I'm there. Sometimes we go to Italy for lunch because it's a 30-minute drive. So we often shop in Ventimiglia at the food market.
The ice cream is good there.
I love it, yes. And then we go and have lunch somewhere along the coast there.
Right.
Anywhere between there in San Remo, you know. So, I mean, and I still have a child. I went with my parents on in the car and on you know, coaches from England down into Italy. And, you know, in those days, it was quite a thing to do. We went to Spain in the car and things like that. So I still have that child's absolute glee of crossing a frontier that's not there. You know, I mean, you just drive it over and it just says, welcome to Italy. And that's it. You don't have
amazing, yeah,
passports or anything because we're the European Union. But I still get a huge sense of a thrill out of just going over into Italy for lunch. It seems to me something so magical to be able to just cross into another culture, another language, and have lunch.
That is wonderful.
Again, you know, that's one of the great things about living here. Mm-hmm. Or if you lived over in Perpignan or somewhere, then you could just shoot into Spain for lunch. Or, you know, sometimes we go over to Spain for a weekend to see friends or little.
Where do you go in Spain?
We go to.
Yeah. Where do you like to go in Spain?
Well, I have friends who have a place in Jabia, which is just north of Alicante. So we go there sometimes. We like to go to Sitges because Michelle,
it's very characterful.
Yeah, I love Sitges.
Yeah,
I went to Sitges with my parents when I was 13.
Wow!
And I was writing about it and realised that, of course, Franco. I'm so old. Franco was still in power then. And what I discovered when I was writing about Sitges, when I went back with Michelle, I was trying to find where we stayed. I kept looking at all the hotels, seeing if I could recognise where I stayed with my parents. And I remember very well the cathedral. I went there with my mum and they were baptizing dozens of babies all at the same time. And I've since learned, of course, that because it was so poor under Franco, that they would all club together and have a joint kind of baptism day when all the babies would be baptized at the same time. And of course, I went with my mum when I was 13 and we didn't understand what was going on. I mean, I remember crossing the road from our hotel to the beach in my bathing costume, in my bikini. I was 13, you know, and a policeman getting absolutely mad at me. And I didn't, you know, you didn't kind of understand that. So, you know, going back, I love Sitges. What I've since learned is that it was one of the most revolutionary places against Franco. And of course, it's since become, you know, a city that is opened up to gays. Everything. It is a very, very broad-minded, very friendly, extraordinary place. I love going there. There's several other little hotels along the coast that we stop at sometimes. I can't remember the names of them right now. I'd have to look it up. Yeah. But I love all that northern Costa Brava. I think it is, isn't it? Costa Brava.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Have you ever been to Cadaqués, where Salvador Dali lived?
Yes, I love it. Yeah. And there's a little bay there. I'm just trying to remember the name. It's called the White Hotel. Same Empúries, where the wonderful...
Empúries Brava. Yeah, near Girona.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
There's a hotel that used to be a very simple... local dialect-speaking hotel, and now it's been bought by I don't know who, and they've done it up, and it's a spa, and it's terribly posh now. And I like it much less than I used to like it. I liked it when it was, you know, just this little local place where they all spoke Catalan, and food was all very, very local and everything. But it's a beautiful little bay, and it's right at the Empúries ruins.
Empúries Brava. Beautiful.
So that's very beautiful, yes. So that's not too far from Cadaqués.
Okay.
South of.
And Carol, you must have stayed at some pretty amazing hotels throughout your times. Is there anywhere that really sticks out as memorable, apart from Australia as well?
Well, you know, I'm one of those people who actually prefer, I mean, I've stayed in lots of very posh hotels, and particularly when it's been paid for by film companies. Sure. But I actually like the very little places myself. I get a great thrill out of finding a 3 or maybe a 4-star hotel that's not too expensive and is an unusual place. I mean, there used to be a wonderful hotel in Sitges. Again, it's been bought by a consortium, and I don't know what, and they're knocking it about now. It was called the Romantico. Do you know it?
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah.
Oh, wow. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it was a 2 or 3-star hotel. When I first went there, I just fell absolutely in love with it. The staff were amazing and had these crazy rooms. And people like Dali would stay there. You know, I mean, it was just amazing. And then the last time we went, I said, there's something different about it. And they said, oh, we've been bought by a company and they're going to be knocking it apart. And the last time we went there, it wasn't even open. They were doing renovations. So God knows what's happening.
Yeah.
So that was a big pity. That was one of my little, one of our little schools, and we always stayed there. And it was like about €60 a night or something.
Very good.
I loved it. And you could walk from there into the old town and, to the beach and everything. Yeah. So I loved that. There's another little place which I right now can't remember. Never mind, move on from that because I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, no, sorry, carry on. I was just going to ask if in America, if you've any favorite places there that you found on your travels that you enjoyed.
Well, some of those wonderful Beverly Hill hotels. I mean, I used to love staying in some of those, the Wiltshire and things like that, because it was Hollywood. Absolutely Hollywood.
Over the top.
Getting into the lift at the Wiltshire, and I got into the lift, no one was in, and then in stepped Anthony Quinn, and I was kind of like,
wow.
That used to kind of knock the socks off me. I used to really love that, and you'd have to sit there being by the pool or something, be really cool when someone very famous came by. So I used to love all of that, those hotels in Hollywood.
Yeah.
When we stay in New York, we used to stay at so famous literary hotel. Can't think of his name now. Terribly famous literary hotel. Algonquin. The
Algonquin. Oh, beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Dorothy Parker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all of that. Yeah. And that, of course, comes with all its history and its, and so I used to love staying there. It's a while since I've been to New York. The last time I stayed in a place that had been done up by Philip Stark. It was so dark. You had a kind of white stick to get from. It really was. I mean, I don't like it. It was not so comfortable. I didn't like all that. So I would next time go back to the Algonquin or something next time.
No, it's a beautiful hotel. And how about with the whole lockdowns and the COVID, how has it affected you, Carol, and your life and your traveling, working? How has it been?
Well, we were very fortunate because we've got this land here. We got down here the day a lockdown started in 2020 for us on St. Patrick's Day, Paddy's Day, on March the 17th. So I think a week before Britain. And we arrived here on the 16th because Michelle had heard that there was going to be a lockdown. So we were just sitting at our place up north, and he said, "Get packed, we're going." And we drove until about 1 a.m. to get back. So we were home before the lockdown started. And so we stayed here, and it was just perfect. I mean, it was a beautiful spring. And we were here, I don't think we could leave here until June or July or something. Then we went to the only festival in 2 years that actually continue to operate was a small festival that Michel he's the international director of, and it's on an island called Castellorizzo. Do you know it?
I've heard of it, yes. Castellorizzo, yeah.
Let me tell you about Castellorizzo. So anyway, we went, that was our only place, the only trip that we made that 2020, and then we came back, and then there was the second lockdown in the same year, so we came back here. We spent a little bit, we could go up to Paris then, because if you had work reasons you could, so we were able, but we traveled by car to make sure that we weren't with anybody else. But Castellorizzo, it's about 1 kilometer from Turkey, from Kaş, so it's almost the furthest point of Europe.
Yeah.
And it's a teeny little island. The only way, there's one plane in the mornings, I think 5 days a week, about 7 o'clock in the morning, it flies in from Rhodes. Right. So you have to fly to Rhodes to either get the once 3 times a week ferry or once every 3 or 4 days flight into Castellorizzo. So it's not the easiest place to get to. Basically from Northern Europe, it basically takes a couple of days because you have to get to Rhodes, you stay overnight, then you either get the 7 o'clock in the morning ferry or the 8 o'clock in the morning plane. And then you're there in 3 hours. 3 hours by ferry and an hour by plane. Yeah. So it's a journey to get there, which also means that lots of
When
people
you're there, it's better. Yeah.
We go there for Michel's Festival, which is the last week of August every year, and we stay a few days in advance and a few days afterwards, so we make it a kind of fortnight trip. In fact, we've been talking about it today, which dates we'll go. So that's a very special place, that island. And if you want to be there for the documentary film festival, it's the last week of August. Come along and say hello. And it's all out of doors. All the films are out of doors in the evenings, and it's kind of, and you've got all. It's one port. That's basically the only town on the island. There's a couple of other little villages, but that's it. Yeah. So it's about swimming, reading, eating wonderful fresh fish, fresh vegetables, most of which comes over from Turkey.
Yeah,
the boats go to, and I mean, they've had a deadlock between them, which has now been lifted. But for a while, it was getting difficult but between the Turkish and the local Greeks, it's very easy, and they're all great friends, and they all go to each other's places to, restaurants to eat and everything. Yeah. And it's an absolutely magical little island. In winter, there's about 200 inhabitants. In summer, it can be 2,000.
Yeah. But still, it's not too many. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
How about Cannes Film Festival, Carol? Do you avoid Cannes, or do you go to it, or?
I know we were going to it this year.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I've been writing, I haven't managed to get down there at all, but this year we will go. I think we've both got a couple of projects we want to pitch, so we'll be doing a bit of that, and we'll be watching films as well. We'll go and watch some films. Yeah. So yes, I like that. And then we might go to the Majestic and have a glass of champagne or something, or one of the other big hotels down there, the Martinez or something, which is where
Martinez, that's
we go for aperitifs in the evening. I mean, there's a kind of routine to the Cannes Film Festival. People go there for cocktails, or they go there or they have lunch on the beach at the Carlton. So there are different places where different things are happening, pockets of things are happening. So we will definitely participate in it. As I'm not going to be filming, I thought I would be filming, so I wasn't going to be able to be. But now that I'm not filming, I will definitely be participating this year.
Yeah. And have you noticed there's been much of a change, just around, since the Brexit and everything, around in your local shops, or just with the amount of people coming over to?
Well, it's unusual to hear English accents now.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, the Americans haven't been coming because of COVID, and because Americans, now the war will keep them away. I mean, they always worry about, there's always something that they worry about. Can I go, or is it safe to travel? So I'm sure the war will keep a lot of Americans away from the festival this year, as COVID did. Right. Well, I mean, basically everything has been closed for 2 years, hasn't it? With all masked up and everything, which is the same thing for a holiday. But the Brits, lots of British people I know that have second homes somewhere down here are selling or have sold because...
Oh, really? The timing, yeah.
Well, they can only have so many days every 90 days. I don't remember. Fortunately, it's not my problem, but...
yeah, it's tragic.
It's a limited thing, and it's not even that you can have 6 months altogether. It's all divided up. So a lot of people I know have sold their places. I'm lucky to sell it at this time, I might say. But so it's Europeans that are buying the places that the Brits had, really.
Yeah.
Or the Brits have decided to take some kind of local residency situation. I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
So that they can be over here. But then I think it impacts on their tax. I don't know how it works.
And with your wonderful olives and the olives that you grow, do you have to travel much to do with that, or is everything kind of done on site?
No, we go. It's very unusual in France to have a private mill. The Italians do that much more in the bigger, older estates. Yes. But down here in the south of France, it's generally what they call, the communal mills, where all the local villagers will go. So we go to there are 2 or 3 mills within half-hour drive from us, 20 minutes. So I go to one of those. We gather every 3 days so that we haven't kept the olives too long. So if you keep the olives too long, once they've been picked before they're pressed, they start oxidizing, which puts the acid level higher, and you lose your extra virgin status. I mean, I have an organic status and extra virgin status, and we did have the special.
I read a bit about this in one of your books, and I didn't want to use the kind of the pesticide things either on them.
No, we're organic. We've been organic now for, I'd say 10 years. We're
Very
completely
good.
organic. There isn't not anything goes on the land, and not even for the weeds. Nothing goes on the land. Not even on the parking spaces. Nothing at all.
Yeah,
we're completely organic. I'm very strict about it.
Very good.
I'm neurotic about it.
And do you love eating olives? I must say they're one of my favorite foods.
I do.
Always got them.
I mean, we cook. We do everything with olive oil. You know, I mean, sometimes we even have tomatoes and olive oil for breakfast, which is particularly very, very good anti-cancer food. Yeah. It's a Middle East. I picked that up in Turkey and in Lebanon. You know, they will have for breakfast. You know those Lebanese cucumbers, the small ones?
Yes.
I bought some today. I had some for lunch. Lebanese cucumbers, which are little ones and taste slightly different. They're not like these big fellows that the Europeans have. And they have Lebanese cucumber, fresh tomatoes, olive oil, and a little bit of local cheese, goat's cheese, and that's breakfast.
Yeah.
And I got into the habit of that, and I love that as breakfast. In fact, I had that for lunch today.
Oh, okay.
I had some fruit for breakfast and had that for lunch today. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Carol, thank you so much. It's really marvelous to speak to you. And who knows, it'd be wonderful to meet you. If you ever come to Scotland, please let me know.
Or if you're down here for one of the festivals, let me know.
Yes, thank you. I would love to meet you in person. But it's been great. But you're a real inspiration, and it's it's lovely to see that you do so much and with such a passion. So hopefully we'll chat again. And thank you. Really enjoyed speaking to you. Okay, thanks. Take care, Carol. Thank you. Bye.